Hey guys, welcome back to the Drone Camps channel. Today I have an epic review lined up for you guys. Geprc has or has not released their Cinebot25, and I have a copy of it right here. It is kind of a lot of the things that we were asking Geprc to fix in the last several years of the Cinelog series, and some of the things that we like and don't like about the Cinebot 30 have been addressed in this quad. So first and foremost, we have a sub 250G 4K DJI quad that you can fly real estate with, indoor flights, epic indoor flights, and you can also take it outside and do some acro flying with it and do some mild to, I'd say, medium freestyle. We're gonna test this out today in the house and outside. I'm gonna do some big tree dives. We're gonna do some power loops and some split S's and have a lot of fun with this quad. And I'm gonna show you what's completely new and what's completely different about this version of it. Starting with the prop guards and a redesigned bottom plate where the O3 goes. I think you guys are gonna find this one super interesting. So stick around. After the flight test, we'll get into it. And like always, I'll give you my final opinion on maybe one of this year's funnest quads for 2024. So let's go ahead. Let's do some flying outside and indoors. We'll come back. We'll talk about it. Here we go.
Easy come and easy go. You're an unfading star, a gentle love, the kind that lifts you up, no matter how far apart. I guess you could call it chance, but we know it's more than that. It's like we've always known, been set in stone, unbreakable. It's like I've always dreamed, true harmony, unmistakable, unmistakable. Through each night we'll keep burning bright. I'm so lucky to be loved by you. And come the storms of weather, short or long, well, I'll still be right where you are. I guess you could call it chance, but we know it's more than that. It's like we've always known, been set in stone.
Guys, welcome back from the epic flight test. The Cinebot25 on the scale is 243.3 grams total takeoff weight with a 4S 650 milliamp battery. This is the box that you get. It says born for FPV on the front, which is kind of cool. And it reminds me of the Geprc domain style boxes. It seems they've changed their packaging around a little bit. On the side, it has all the specs that we have in here. We have the Cinebot25 V3 with TBS Nano RX. It is a Taker G4 45 amp AIO flight controller in there. And it has an O3 air unit in the very bottom. And it's the O3 camera on board. And it can fly on 4S. It does not say that it can fly on 6, however. And this is what you get inside the box. You get the same style graphics that we saw on the domain. This little removable centerpiece. There's 2 accessories boxes that we'll check out in a second. Quad comes here, and just below the quad we have some stickers and some disclaimers and notices and some instructions for getting to customer support there. And I think some of you are going to appreciate the schematic that comes in the box because it tells you how to set up your different receivers, anything from FrSky to TBS Nano to ELRS, as well as setting up an analog VTX, an external buzzer, the digital FPV system from DJI, how that goes, and it's on UART1. We can set that up there for MSP OSD, which is awesome. And you can add GPS to this quad because it doesn't come with it, but you can add it. And this is kind of cool. In the sticker series, I now notice that we have the Cinebot25 added to this family of Geprc drones. So pretty cool. Darkstar 20, Mark V, Cinelog 20, 35, the Cinebot 30, and the Moz7, and finally, the Cinebot25. Now also we get these 2 boxes inside the Cinebot25 box. Let me open this one up for you. This is your DJI O3 information packet right here. You get a M15 by 180 millimeter strap, as well as a little bit longer one there. You get an extra mount that goes on the front of this. It can go and take smaller camera mounts. It's not a full-size GoPro mount, but it is for micro-size cams. It's got the smaller hole in there. But it feels like it's injection molded plastic, which is also what the prop guards are made of. They are super durable, and I have to tell you, we're going to talk about durability for this quad, and right away it's going to be it's probably 100% more durable than the Cinelog series quad prop guards, and some of you guys are going to just love that fact. We also got another adapter here for, actually no, this is a heat sink. This is an additional heat sink for the O3. So if you need extra heatsink, you can put that on the bottom there. And that's pretty cool that they introduced that as well for this quad. I might put that on for mine because they do get pretty hot, especially during the summertime. And we also got some extra M2 hardware in here. And let me show you what's inside this box as well. We get some extra hardware packs in here and some extra Cinewhoop props. These are 4-blade HQs, and these are the DT 63mm by 4 GR props. And we got 2 sets of these in the box, as well as all this extra hardware here. And it looks like we got some 3M battery beds here. They look like they're the sticky kind with the removable film on there, so that's kind of cool. Those are a little bit upgraded from what we've seen before. You get the carbon keychain from Geprc, some extra grommets here, which is cool. We're going to talk about the staging on this camera in a minute. We got some M2 nuts, some more M2 by 6 screws, some more M2 by 18s. These are M2, no, these are 1.6 by 8s, so those are for the DJI camera for that system, that housing unit. And we also get looks like a little tiny metal bind plug in there, an M2 wrench. I probably wouldn't use that metal thing. I always use like a bamboo skewer. That's going to be the safest thing. And we also got some M2 by 12 screws and some more M1.6 10mm screws. And these are for the DJI O3 unit. Now that you've seen everything in the box, let's go ahead and just dive into this. It is so different than the original Cinebot 30, but familiar in a lot of ways. And this quad seems like a mashup of a lot of the popular quads out there. I mean, it has characteristics of the Pavo series. It has characteristics of even an old school Seagull ready to fly bundle that we reviewed a while back, and I'm talking about the top plate there. But I've seen this top plate type of revision remix a bunch of times. It's also reminiscent of iFlight's Defender series, which I'm going to show you in a minute. And it even has some elements of like YMZ style quads built into this quad, and some classic tried and tested Geprc Cinelog type of things, reincorporated and hashed back into the Cinebot series. And for me, you know, they released a whole bunch of different Cinelog series quads, and the Cinebot series, when it came out, the 30 was kind of revolutionary because it did the best of both worlds, like we talk about on this channel. It would do cinema and it would do freestyle, so it had duality, but it also had much more durable prop guards than any of the Cinelog series. Those were kind of brittle and they broke pretty easily. But this one comes in with what reminds me of some of the, you guys remember the Protek series from iFlight about 2 to 3 years ago now? It has some injection molded, custom made style, almost like, I don't know what kind of type of plastic they were, but they were very similar to this. They were a little bit like smoke colored. And these are just gray. But, you know, it almost reminds me of the AVATA style plastic. It has extra bracing in here on both sides here. And if we flip this over and we look at the bottom, check that out. What does that remind you of? Does that remind you a little bit of the Defender series from iFlight? Very similar venting in the bottom, but they've done a couple things different here. They added feet around the bottom. They put a little grommet on the bottom of these feet to make it soft to put down on the bench or wherever you're launching from. And when you power up this quad, you can see where the bind hole is. And on the other side, they've also added kind of very similar to the AVATA. And I like this better because what they did was they took and made a silicone trapdoor here with 2 little pieces that stick out on either side and just gently push that into place. And now you have your trapdoor back on, as simple as that. Much easier to get on than the DJI AVATA, which is cool. So you take this off, you can see there that you have access to your SD card slot, as well as your USB-C port right there. Let me zoom into that for you so you can see that. So clear access to that to update the firmware and get your video out, as well as access the internal memory storage on here. And on the other side, if we flip this around, they manufactured a tiny little hole right here, and this will light up red. What the greatest thing about this is, when you're trying to bind up this unit to your goggles, or say you're using the DJI FPV transmitter, when you stick your bamboo skewer in here, it's right on the button. So there's no fiddling around trying to figure out where that bind button is. It is right there, and you can see that red light come on once you plug in the quad. And I think that's super cool. And again, the Cinebot25 has the Taker G4 flight controller on there with 45 amp ESCs for what seems like you could fly 6S on there, but these motors are a little bit higher kV. They are 1404, and it looks like they're about 4,000 kV, which will make me think that they're only going to support 4S. So don't try to put 6S on this quad, but I will tell you the power to weight ratio feels like 10 to 1 here with the boost that I got to the top of the trees. And if you use the lighter battery, I would say something like a 4S 720 milliamp battery, or you use something like a 650 milliamp battery. I've tried both of these, and the power to weight ratio is great, and it'll still get you over 4 minutes flight time. If you want a much longer flight time, you can still fly something as large as the 4S 900 milliamp battery, and that's going to get you 5 to 6 minutes flight time on this quad. Here's a little closer look at those inverted motors, and they are 1404 Geprc branded. They are SpeedX Series 2 motors, and you can see the 1404 there with that very small KV printed just above there. Now, this is where the design gets really fun around where the O3 is mounted. We have the O3 VTX unit safely mounted inside and underneath the quad. For any type of crashes, your O3 is going to be super protected. But on the very top, I would say there's a little less protection for the O3 camera, but we still have the housing around the camera, and we have this sort of floating injected molded plastic with the microgroms here. You can see these microgroms are mounted down to the main frame. This is the unibody frame, and it is built out of kind of composite carbon here. And that's what I was mentioning as far as how this frame is very similar to what we've seen from YMZ FPV recently. A lot of people are using this composite style frame. It doesn't seem to be 100% carbon fiber, but maybe this is adding extra rigidity to these frames. So you can see it doesn't have that same carbon look. It has a little bit of a sheen to it. So we have 4 groms there, and the camera has bolts on the side. You can see here, and it is mounted through the frame here. And we also have this sort of bumper in the very front that comes out underneath the camera. I am able to get the camera almost to probably about 5 degrees tilt on the very bottom almost to horizontal, and then I can flip it up. There are 3 housing for bolts right here. These are M2 bolts. 3 bolts will go through this mount, and if we put this mount on just like this and we slide it all the way forward, right behind the camera, you can see it sits in there just barely without touching the O3 unit right there. So that's going to give us a smaller DK style GoPro mount. Now let's look at the back of this baby. This is pretty cool back here, the way they've incorporated all of this right into the back of the quad. They have a few different things going on here. Right here, they moved the USB-C port all the way to the back of the quad, so you don't have to fight inside the prop guards to get to the flight controller with a cable. I think that's super cool. They also put the bind button right here as well, or the boot button for the flight controller. So if you need to press the boot button, there it is on the very back. You don't have to go inside this and push it on the flight controller. So that's super cool. In the back, we also have some silicone dampening here for the Immortal T. So if this gets hit by anything, it's just going to give and likely not tear it off. So that's pretty cool that they did that. That is something new, and that is, it appears to be silicone. Now over here where your DJI antenna is coming out the top, we have 2 bolts here holding on what looks to be an injection molded type of antenna mount on there. And just below that, we have a recessed XT30 port for plugging in the battery. And I got to tell you, once you have your battery on CG and you plug this in, it almost reaches it perfectly, and there's no fiddling around with trying to pull the wire extra to get extra length out of your cable. So that makes it a lot easier to plug in the quad. So, I mean, there you have it. It's kind of a mashup of a lot of other types of Cinewhoops out there that have had great innovations to them, but no Cinewhoop is perfect, and no FPV freestyle drone is perfect. So they all have their kind of pros and cons. So if I could say some pros and cons about this one real quick for you, I think the cons of it right away are there is a little bit of shudder coming around from the super hard maneuvers, but then again, this is not really made for total freestyle. It's not it's not supposed to be a freestyle quad. Maybe mild freestyle to medium freestyle. I would say this one's a medium freestyler because of some of the stuff that I could get away with, and it seems like the rates on here are set pretty high. So if you guys want me to hash out some indoor real estate rates for this quad, I can do that and share that with the community. So if it's something that you would like me to do, just make a comment down below, and I'll try to come out with a softer rate and a slower flying profile for this particular quad. Because sometimes we will do PID tuning on the channel and pass it out to the community for different bind and fly releases. But this one it seems to be the sub 250G category that a lot of people are looking for this year, as far as not having to register it, still be able to do some freestyle fly acro, and do some real estate jobs indoors, because inside the house, the FAA doesn't have jurisdiction on what jobs you take. So if you're doing single shot fly-throughs for real estate, it's a wide open market. As long as you have a business license to conduct business, then you can start taking money with one of these indoors. The FAA has no jurisdiction indoors, so go crazy with that. Make up your business and get started with something small like this. I have to say also in this review, before we end it, that this took one of the hardest hits indoors that I have yet to do with a Cinewhoop indoors. I was flying full speed across the dining room, and I hit that little bench by the front door head on into the wood piece that sticks up. It came right across and smacked it and flipped over and crashed. Another couple times I had it stuck to the ceiling. It will stick to the ceiling because it has a very flat profile to it, and there's a lot of air coming down from these being forced down, so it really does stick to the ceiling. So watch out for getting close to the ceiling with this one because of that low top profile. It seems like it wouldn't, but as far as going slower, I was able to kind of back off the throttle a little bit by bending the camera all the way down to level, and I was able to go pretty slow for those cinema style videos indoors, the real estate style flying. And then when I wanted to go outside and I cranked it up to about 25 degrees, man, I was smoking around the backyard. The first time that I flipped into acro, if you look back in that video, you see the quad go like because immediately I just like went facing the ground. And a lot of times when I fly a quad for the first time, if I'm in the backyard or somewhere tight, I'll fly up higher and then I'll click into acro, because a lot of times if it does have super high rates on it, it'll give me this little bit of dive first. If you're right like 2-3 feet off the ground and you click into acro, sometimes it will kind of crash into the ground on you. So you got to watch out for that. But this one has pretty high rates on it. Maybe another con about it could be that it did have a little bit of shudder around some of the really hard maneuvers, but it's not a freestyle quad. It is an inverted motor Cinewhoop, and it flies great for that. If you're trying to freestyle with it, and you don't think it flies great, then buy a freestyle drone with upward facing motors. That's the point of upward facing motors and that type of frame. 5-inch frames are great for freestyle, do that. Or get a 3-inch or a 3.5-inch and freestyle that one. But this one also, again, it has very similar characteristics with that carbon composite frame. The bottom plate, very similar to the Defender with the venting on the bottom. And it takes me back to the Protek days with that ultra durable injected molded plastic prop guards. Man, they are crazy durable, because I seriously thought that I broke something when I hit the bench near the door. And all this extra like thickness that we have up in the center of this, it's definitely going to protect your O3 in the very bottom there. So there's probably about an inch worth of duct on the inside right here. The only thing you're going to have to look out for as well is probably that trapdoor on the bottom, very similar to the AVATA. Sometimes you think it's closed, sometimes it's not. So if you take off, you may have that door sticking out a little bit, but every time you open it and close it, just make sure it's on there tight. You shouldn't have any problems. But it feels like a mini Ripper, and I'm just excited that mine's still in one piece after this kind of flight test, because I went a little crazy outdoors and I smacked something solid indoors. So yeah, it survived a drone camps review. So you know what that means. It's probably going to survive you. So I'm taking this review from a pilot's perspective. And as always, that's what these are about. I don't get paid to make these reviews, and my opinions are my own. So I appreciate it if you grab our link down below, or check out our link to Geprc's website. If and when this one does come out, you can be the first one to grab it. And yeah, pass this video along to the next guy if someone you know wants to get into FPV, because that's what we do here. We try to cater to the new guys on the channel. And some of you old school guys have been around for as long as I have, come back just to kind of see what's new on the channel, because new stuff's coming out all the time. And it's a lot of fun. So I think this one's pretty damn awesome. That's my review. Pretty damn awesome. Yeah, another winner for the Cinebot series. I feel like they outdid themselves with this design. It's kind of like when Apple or Microsoft comes out with something so awesome the next time that it kind of cannibalizes some of the older models. So if you're going to ask me, should I get a Cinelog 25 or should I get a Cinebot 25? Get the bot. I appreciate you guys watching. Take care, and please subscribe for more epic reviews. I'm Justin Davis. See you on the next one.